Welcome to Beyond Sunday, the King of Kings podcast, where we dive a little bit deeper into our message series and see what we're taking beyond Sunday. My name is Dina Newsom, and I am blessed to have some great guests that I get to work with often around here now. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Chad Kelly, the student ministry intern here at King of Kings. Been here about 2.5 months, something like that.
And I am Seth. I thought you were going to say 2.5 years.
No, not 2.5 years. No.
I also have been here.
Does it feel like that?
I mean, some days it feels like I've been here for 2 days, and some days it feels like I've been here for 2.5 years. Yeah.
As ministry can be. I'm Seth. I get to be the campus director here at the Miller campus for King of Kings. And I also, again, have been here since July 1st was both of our start dates.
Yeah.
So, old pros.
Exactly.
Been here forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Just like it. Yep. I've been here 2 years, so
wow,
I do
almost
have
2.5 years.
Little, yeah. But yeah.
Well, did you introduce yourself though?
I did introduce myself.
Oh, good,
It's part of my normal routine.
But did you get to tell everybody that's listening like what you get to do as you serve here?
No, not really.
Come on.
They just know me as the podcast host.
Yeah, but you're amazing.
You're so much more than that.
I am the Millard Associate Campus Director here at this campus, and then I also get to be the Central Director of Events for our large-scale community outreach events, and that's what I really, really love. Is
not this podcast.
No, I love the podcast.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I wear a lot of hats.
Yes,
I have a lot of little hats, and I like them all in some way. Yeah. It's a very complete wardrobe.
Complete wardrobe. I've heard the hat analogy. I've never heard a wardrobe analogy for a job.
We need to get her a cape and a hat and just like a wardrobe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All labeled with all of her different job descriptions.
There you go. Yeah, one for each.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for being here today. We, this week, finished up our Game On series, which we've been working through the last month. And Pastor Zach Zender has been leading us through this look at the story of David in light of, or in the view of, popular video games. And this week, it was talking about Fortnite. And so first, have you guys played Fortnite? Are you Fortnite players?
I have played Fortnite. I'm very bad, maybe worse than Zach. Yeah. So I hopped on once in the last church that I was at. We also had a school, and some of the other kids were actually playing the game. And it was hilarious because my son told them, my dad's playing on my account. And so they rallied around me to protect me. And they were telling all the other players,
awesome.
100 players in this from all over
protect
the world.
The pastor, protect the pastor.
Thou shalt not kill my pastor. And they're just oh, shoot. And I'm like, no, turn the other cheek. Yeah. But I'm really bad. The whole idea of moving with one directional pad in one direction and then having the other directional pad on the controller to do the head up and down. It actually makes me motion sick to watch it for too long and to do it because my eyes just lock in and it makes me want to barf. So I'm not a Fortnite guy or Call of Duty or anything like that.
Nice.
But,
I played in high school, when the big rush was happening, before any of the big updates. And I played when it was actually impressive to get a victory royale because now you get them left and right. I remember when I first got my victory royale was with a buddy in high school, and it was the most electric and amazing moment of my life ever.
And then you got married, or?
And then I got married. Yeah. It's definitely not in the top 10 anymore.
Okay.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
A rite of passage, I would say.
I have played Fortnite, not often, but my son was in the thick of the craze when it came out. And I can remember him coming and telling me, hey, Mom, I want to download this free game on Xbox. And I'm always about free. Sure, great. What is it? Well, it's you and 100 other people and you all just kill each other. And I was like, ooh.
What an explanation.
Let's talk about this a little bit more.
Right.
Can I get some more details? But once he got into it, then he was constantly like, Mom, you come play with me. Come play with me. So one time, the very first time I played, I've played more than once, but not often. The very first time I played, I got on. I knew nothing of what I was doing. I am not familiar with Xbox controllers. So the whole 2 joystick movement and view was very confusing to me. And I panicked. Someone came up on me. I panicked. I just hit a bunch of buttons and I killed someone with my pickaxe.
Wow. Yes. That's impressive.
And my son called me savage. And I think that is the best compliment he has ever given
to this day.
Yes, to this day.
That's awesome.
That is good.
So the premise of Fortnite is all these people are dropped on an island and you want to be the last man standing and the storm is shrinking. So in relating to a storm, my question to open us up today is, what's your favorite storm memory or maybe your worst storm memory from your childhood or growing up or with your kids?
So I can start it.
Yeah, go
Hopefully
for
that
it.
gives you a second to figure it out. I've got 2 stories, but they're very brief. One, when I was really young, I was probably like 9 or 10. I was asleep in my bed and I had just fallen asleep. And I had this Dodgers nightlight plugged into the wall. I hate the Dodgers. I love the Brewers. But for some reason, somebody gave me it and it was in my wall. The house gets struck by lightning.
Ooh.
Your
And
house?
The house gets struck
Oh
by
my
lightning.
gosh.
And the thing pops out of the wall and hits my bed. So you hear this wham, with the lightning bolt, and then it just hits the bed. And I've always hated the Dodgers ever since then. Yeah,
Go Padres.
That sealed it.
go Brewers. We may have the best record in all of baseball or something. I'm not going to brag about the Brewers. Like that.
Padres they're doing good. You got to admit.
They are doing well.
Better than usual.
Yes, better than the White Sox or the Cubs. Anyway, the other story was like 3 Junes ago, we had this terrible hailstorm at our house in Economwalk. And it actually, like in June, accumulated what looked like our whole front yard looked like it was snow covered, but it damaged everything.
Oh.
So on the one hand, you're just sitting under your porch, like watching this amazing storm, because for some reason, people in the Midwest, that's what they do.
Yep.
Hey, there's a tornado outside.
Let's go watch.
The guy just said,
yeah.
go to the basement, but let's go outside.
Yep.
So that was going on. And that was like a core memory because a bunch of the kids came out and we watched it and we were like, wow, man, this is terrible and terrific all at the same time. It kind of gives you this view of like the power and majesty of the one who has created all of that. And it makes you take a step back. And oftentimes we kind of like coat over with the compassion of Jesus. We coat over the majesty of God, and you see like unbridled power in moments like that. And it's just a core thing that you have to talk about them. So those are our 2 stories. One has to do with the lightning strike and the Dodgers, and the other one has to do with core memories unlock.
Yeah.
Mine were always like the bad memories, I'd say, were just when we'd had to go to the basement in the middle of the night. My parents would wake me up in Indiana and it'd be pouring, lightning, thunder, all that. And we'd wait for a couple hours, then go back upstairs. It was scary. But my favorite part of storms is when there's dry lightning, where you can see lightning off in the distance. Whenever I see dry lightning, I'll just park and watch. Because it's the same thing, just like
Just
the beauty,
Mhm.
the majesty, the glory of just watching electricity go through the air. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful moment.
Terrible beauty.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I grew up in Grand Island, not far from here, and June 3rd, 1980 was the site of huge tornadoes in Grand
wow.
Island. And anyone that from around here knows that date and that story. There were 13 tornadoes in the city limits that
Holy
day.
cow.
Like, it was a crazy night. There was a TV movie made about it later. There was a book written about it, like all this stuff. But I was 6 years old at the time.
Was that tornadoes?
It was tornadoes.
Actually?
Night of the Twisters
Oh.
was actually the book
Okay.
and the movie. John Schneider, Bo Duke, was in the movie. And
Ooh.
I'll tell you another story about him if we have time. But anyway, so I was 6 years old at the time. And I remember that day I had red knickers on, and they were my favorite red knickers. And when I say knickers, I don't mean like knickers like bloomers, like knickers, they just came down to my knees. That was a fashion fad at the time.
What are knickers?
Knickers, they just come down to your knees, like they're
Okay.
pants that only go to your knees, or at least that's
Got it.
what they were called when I was 6.
Okay. Yeah.
They were my red
It's short for
knickers.
knickerbockers,
Yeah.
right?
But like in knickers, like in England, means your underwear or something like that. It's like bloomers, or I don't know. Anyway,
No,
Cool.
but the New York Knicks are actually named after
Oh.
that. The actual name is the New York
Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers, and they're named after that
Yeah.
article of clothing.
so I had red knickers, and they were my favorite. And so the sirens went off that evening. We were in the basement. My parents knew it was bad. I was a little bit clueless at the age of 6. So I'm sitting in my mom's lap, crisscross applesauce, and the storm is really bad. And I can remember I got scared when I asked to go to the bathroom, and the room where we would go in our basement was right next to the bathroom. And normally during a tornado, we'd go downstairs and we'd hang out, but you could run up and get a cup of water. You could go to the bathroom. And my mom was like, nope, pee your pants. So I peed in my red knickers, and that's what my core memory about the night of the tornadoes.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I-
I don't know. I was going to make a joke, but it would probably be inappropriate, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But and at that point, I was like, oh, this is serious. Like, we can't even get out to go to the bathroom. But my dad was busy running up and down to look outside because, that is what Midwesterners do.
So here's what I want to see.
Oh,
I want to see how Dina transitions from that story to the scripture teaching
Right.
today.
And for those of you who aren't watching, you can't watch on video, she's wearing a red shirt. So that,
But not red knickers.
not red knickers, no.
But no, the funny thing about that book and the movie, later there was a TV movie done like way later in the mid 90s. And at the time that the TV movie came out, I was living in San Antonio, Texas. And that was also where actor John Schneider, who played Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard, for those of you who lived. And I was working in a Hollywood video store. And John Schneider came into our Hollywood video store and everyone was like, oh, everybody knew who he was. And he went and he looked around the store and then he came up to the counter. This was back when we had, VHS tapes. And he said, hey, I'm looking for some videos on hurricanes. Do you have any videos about hurricanes? And I said, well, no, we don't have a real big documentary section, but let me look. And so I looked in the computer, didn't find anything. I walked with him back to the section where we had some storm videos. We didn't have any hurricane ones. We had one on like bigger storms, like tropical storms, but it was checked out at the time, so then you just couldn't get it.
It's a high commodity.
And so I apologized to him and he was very kind. And then he left the store. And like 9 months later, this TV movie comes out about Night of the Twisters, which I experienced growing up. And I'm guessing he was researching it at the time. And had I known that, or had he said anything about tornadoes, I may have commented, or, you know what I mean? Like I could have connected him with a ton of people to give him firsthand accounts of this. But I missed my chance to be buds with John Schneider.
Dang.
Yeah.
So if I watch that movie and it's terrible.
It is terrible. It really is terrible.
I'll know why. He had no reference material.
That's
Well, because he was looking for hurricanes, not a tornado.
There you go. Sorry, John.
It is a really poorly done, it just really was straight to TV, like a CBS movie or something like that. But it was just interesting. It meant a lot to me because, I lived it. But yeah, and he wore a Nebraska Cornhuskers jersey in one part of the movie. Yeah, it was so fancy. Okay, so,
here's the transition.
Yep. So I got nothing. So let's just talk about Game On.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah. Fortnite.
I'm trying to think of something clever, but so the game of Fortnite, like I said, the idea is to be the last man standing, but it really points out you feel really vulnerable in this. And that was one thing that Zach really talked about in this message. And so he's had his 4 themes that he's been going on in Game On. The first one was know your mission, and 2 was choose your weapon, 3 was stay in the fight, and 4 for this week, it was get the victory. What really stuck out to you? What are you taking beyond Sunday from this message?
So I think I could speak a little bit on the vulnerability aspect and the last man standing aspect. And that is, when you look at the Old Testament, you see that like after sin is introduced into the world, you see everyone being given this chance to do what they were expected to do. So like the law is written on their hearts. So it's not like anybody can say, well, I don't know what the expectations are. No, like don't kill people, don't sleep with somebody else's wife, which actually works into this specific story. But in any event, everyone is documented in the Old Testament, and everyone ends up having that like circle storm of the law kicking them out, to the point where the wages of sin is death. That even happens in the Old Testament. They all know what the expectations are. And then you have this funneled all down to the person of Jesus, which is why he's like the hinge between the Old Testament and the New Testament, because Jesus in his person is Israel down into one person, all of humanity down to one person. He's the last man standing. And if he was just the last man standing, that'd be a great story of victory for him. But instead of being the last man standing and that only benefiting him, he decided to step out of the circle and give everybody else the victory royale that he was his, like that was naturally his because of what he did. And I would just love for anybody who's listening to this to go back into the Old Testament, see some of the biggest programmatic events that happen, like the Exodus, like the wandering in the wilderness, like just any large moment in the Old Testament. You see it actually personified in the life of Jesus. So like, why do you think at the beginning of his ministry, right after his baptism, what is it that he does? He goes out into the wilderness. Why? Because he wants to illustrate to everyone that he's humanity, he's Israel, boiled down to one. So it even starts at the beginning and carries throughout the entirety of his ministry till he is the last man standing, and then switches the whole script to benefit us. So I think that's what I'll be taking beyond Sunday, is just this further emphasis that that all of this story of the scriptures is pointing to Jesus. And that should be everybody's look at the scriptures too.
Yeah. I think when I think like get the victory, and we think in the world of getting the victory, whatever it looks like, whether it's a medal, a first place trophy, whatever it could be, there's a lot of work that has to be put in to get the victory. There's a lot of work before the competition, during the competition, and even after to get the win that you deserve from all the work you've put in. But I think what Zach did a beautiful job of talking about this week is in the Christian terms of getting the victory. It's nothing that you've done. It's nothing that could have anything to do with what has happened to you, or what you've done or anything. It's everything that Jesus has done for you. It's that he's the personification of Israel, the personification of you, that he did what you could not do on yourself and gave you the victory straight into your hands. You didn't deserve this gift of grace. If it was up to all of us, we would all be in the pits of hell. That's the harsh reality that we have to swallow as Christians, knowing that we can't do it on our own. And that's the beauty of, I mean, bring it back to the hailstorm. Like sin and the law is terrifying. And because it's so terrifying, that makes what Jesus did so much more beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's just a beautiful act to witness, to think about, to process, and realizing that the victory is not on our own actions, but it's everything that Jesus did for us. So that's what I'm taking beyond Sunday.
I really like I have really enjoyed following the story of David here, but I really like this story about David and Bathsheba, because I think sometimes we tend to put people that are in the Bible up on a pedestal, that they did all the right things, and no, they sinned just as much as we do. And this is a prime example of that, where David had been king for a while and was very successful and very well loved and very renowned. And he still messed up big time, not like a little mess up. Like this was, he was tempted, acted on it, went through with steps to actually have someone murdered through it, and, all the pieces. So it's not like just a tiny slip up. It's something big. And I think what really stuck out to me with that was something that Zach said, is your character is most revealed in adversity and in success. And so I liked that, because we've got to see both in David.
Yeah.
So Zach had 3 really key points in this message for us about not only success in Fortnite, but also like getting the victory. And the first one was to be in the proper position. What jumped out at you guys about when he was talking about being in the proper position? Is there something that stuck with you, or is there a time when this is kind of where he talked about character in adversity and success? Is there a story that you can relate to from your personal life with that, or what stuck with you?
Well, I think I'll go back to actually the story of David himself. What I think is really interesting about character being revealed is that when David defaulted to the leadership style that Saul had, that's when he was in the most trouble. So the idea that he was, as king, supposed to go out with his people, I mean, that was the very thing that the army of Saul had against Saul, is that David won all those victories over Saul because David was actually the most honored and decorated soldier that would go out and do all those things. And it was the moment where David was like, I think I'll just spend some time on the top of my palace and just kind of look around when my men are out. But there's also a really good character like referral in that story too, because after David finds out that Bathsheba is pregnant, he has Uriah come to the palace. And, a lot of times we'll just jump straight to and David had Uriah killed. But actually what happens in between that is David says, well, maybe I'll just cover it up, and I'll have Uriah come off of the battlefield, go against his vows to his other men that were serving with him, and have him come home and sleep with his wife. So then it at least will look like Uriah is the father. But Uriah is so high in character that he refuses to do that. David tries to send him home. Uriah is like, I can't do that. Well, you should go home anyways. And instead, Uriah sleeps, like, I think in a door sill by the soldiers,
of the palace or something like that,
by their quarters. And so, what character is being revealed there? Uriah's character is definitely on display in like contrast to David's character, which is also in contrast, or in line with Saul's character. And it kind of just shows what our default is. And so I guess I probably have 100 more stories of my character falling to the lowest common denominator and default rather than, some story of epic like victory royale or something like that.
Hmm.
I really liked another thing that Zach talked about there, which was the sin spiral. And I don't know if you guys took a look at that. There's a QR code. If you go back and watch the message, there's a QR code there where you can see that Zach kind of had dived into. What's the proper past term?
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Yep.
Yes!
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what you're referring to.
Anyway, if you go back and watch it, there's a QR code in the thing where you can take a look at the sin spiral. And it's just, it's something that you can learn a little bit more about what that means. But I liked that in that he talked about we have to be in the proper position. We have to have spiritual disciplines in place. So what are some routines that you guys have of spiritual disciplines that you think helps you be in that proper position to defend against temptations or opportunities to fail or not be of the highest character?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's every morning. One of my rules for myself is I have to wake up early and I have to pray out loud. Those are kind of my two rules of life at the moment. And I'm actually working on the confirmation curriculum and to teach it in a couple weeks on prayer. And one of the questions I'm going to ask is, why do we pray? What's the importance of prayer? And for me, a big importance of prayer is God will listen to me, right? And it's an opportunity for me to take the pressure off of myself. It's an opportunity for me to say, God, this is what's happening today. This is how I've failed you today. And this is what I have planned for today. In that prayer, yielding the opportunity of the pressure to go off of me, to say, God, this is my plan for today. And I accept what you have planned that's not of that plan. It's for me to end every morning, every night, to in the morning say, God, what I have planned for today, you have full control of it. You can take it. If it's your will for me to do exactly what I've planned, your will be done. If it's not, your will be done. And I think that's where David fell, right? Because he chose his own will over what God had in plan for him. He chose his own way to stand up on the rooftop, to look at Bathsheba instead of going out with his army. And I imagine if David that morning would have taken time to rest, to be silent, to listen, maybe he would have been able to say, oh no, maybe it's best that I go with my men right now. Mm-hmm. And he could have avoided that. Now, of course, we're all broken. We're going to do broken things. And that's when in that moment, when I mess up, when I do something wrong, when I sin, in the evening, to say, God, this is what happened today. This is how I hurt you. This is how I hurt myself, how I hurt the people around me. And in a moment to take it back to God. So for me, the processes, whatever, habits, there we go. Start with God and end with God, and to release the pressure of myself to say it's not all up to me, because if it is, I'm going to mess it up royally.
Not a victory royale.
Not a victory royale. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the disciplines that I have going on right now, I generally try to be in the Word every single day, but I also know that I thrive off a challenge and habit. And so my challenge to myself and accountability with another really faithful follower of Jesus was to finish the Bible in 6 months. And so there's a reading plan for it, and to just check in with that. But even further than that, it's what did it mean then? So then what does it mean now? And what helps for that for me is, sometimes you just open the scriptures, and if you just say, what does this mean for me now? Well, then the Bible's all about you. But if you say, what did it mean at this time? Then I can actually apply it faithfully to like how it corresponds with my life. So that kind of approach just always helps me realize that wherever we are at in our own minds, wherever I'm at in my own head with brokenness, with sin, we tend to, particularly with people that like struggle with anxiety, think that everything is up to you. And I don't know if this is kind of what you were alluding to as well, Chad, when you were talking about it, but it's not all about you. And so if you can have something that roots you in, it's about him every single day, it's going to like reverberate through the rest of your day. Mm-hmm. That it's not all on me. Like I am responsible to fulfill what the Lord has called me to do. But I've read enough stories now in the scriptures where people really stink at that. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And so it's not like I have a comfort in we all stink together. But it's more of a, okay, well, the world didn't end then. Sin happened. There were consequences for that, but the world didn't end. And so I don't have to carry that on my shoulders. And what's really freeing is that like, even when things go really, really well, that can actually set you up for more anxiety, because it's like, oh my goodness, I did this like epic thing, whatever it is. Now the expectation is I'm going to do this again every time I walk into doing that same thing. And that creates more anxiety and more focus on yourself and less focus on where life really should be directed. And that's at him. And I think same thing, if David in that moment would have had just a Nathan to redirect his thoughts before the issue,
right?
Like this would not be the same kind of story that we would have had, but that's not how life plays out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I try to do is at the end of the day, when I'm kind of just winding down and getting ready for bed, is I have my praise time with God is what I call it. And I go through my day and I praise him for all the things that happened or all the choices that I make. And my accountability piece of that is sometimes there's things that I did that maybe I'm not so proud of, or maybe I didn't handle as best as I could. But I will turn them into a way, how can I praise him for the opportunity to grow, or praise him for the opportunity to show that I've learned from it. And if he's going to put that before me again, then I'm going to make a better choice the next time. But I really focus on that whole praising him for what he puts in front of me and then for helping me get through it. And I try to just hold myself accountable to, okay, here's this choice that I'm making, or here's this tough situation that I'm in. Am I going to feel good about the praise that I'm going to have tonight? Or am I going to be praising for a learning experience with the choices that I'm making? And that helps in the way my brain functions, I guess. That helps me seek some clarity and seek more of him in my choices and decisions.
That's so cool, because it's like you owe your future self that level of obedience to Jesus.
Yeah.
I love that.
And and there's times I fail miserably.
Yeah.
But those are the times that I learn. Okay, Lord, I'm thanking you for the opportunity that I learned this, and that I can hopefully be a better child of yours tomorrow, or that I can make a better choice to reflect you tomorrow, or the next day, or whenever it is. So speaking of failing, Zach's number 2 point was, when you fail, respawn. In Fortnite, you have the opportunity to respawn. And this is after my savage axe killing experience in Fortnite. The one job that I was given in Fortnite when I would play with my children is that I was the respawn card person.
Nice.
My job was to hide, not get killed. And when they died,
hide in the bush, right?
Yes.
Yep,
And
hide in the bush.
when they died, I would run and get their card to take to the respawn spot so that they could.
Hey, every person needs someone on the team.
Yep.
There is a
I was the
super
medic.
popular channel called Bushcraft Dad, where this guy learns, and he's given like tips from all sorts of people around the world, the best places to hide. And he just like gets more XP and more points and stuff, and he accumulates that. So it doesn't matter if he dies in the top 10% every time. Like his ranking goes up because he just hides long enough.
Oh yeah.
So this is a legit way to go, Dina.
Yeah, I was key to the respawn. That was it. But what did you guys take from Zach talking about that when you fail, respawn, or that piece of things in the message?
I mean, I think it's where the Lutheran faith thrives, right? Grace upon grace. It's not any of your works that you've done, but it's the grace of Jesus Christ of your life, that when you mess up, there's a clean slate that has been given to you again, and you're going to mess up again later. And then again, there's a clean slate, and it's over and over and over again. And I still don't understand it fully. I don't think anybody fully understands grace because it really is just a free gift. And I don't know about you guys, but my dad always told me nothing's free. Free doesn't make sense. Who gets something out of this equation, out of this situation? But that's why I love the Lutheran faith, because it just emphasizes grace so much. It's not of your works, but it is a free gift from the Lord, and we're gonna mess up, and we're gonna do it over and over and over again. And Jesus is there over and over and over again. And again, I don't understand it, and I know he's gonna be there over and over and over again for me.
I would agree. And I think one of the reasons why our church body is so rich in that understanding of grace, of course, is because the scriptures are. So, Gospel of John says that Jesus is full of grace on top of grace. So it's not just like initial grace that saves you, but then you've got to do a bunch of work to keep it there. Or you got to do a bunch of work to finish the process that he started. No, it's his grace. He started it. He completes it. That's all on him. But then there's actual examples of multiple failures by key leaders in the church after the resurrection that allow us the opportunity to see how key grace is to God's character and how gracious he is. Because, we can say he's terrifyingly beautiful in a storm, and we can look at the law, and that's terrifying as well. But then we look at Peter, and do you know that guy? No, I don't know that man that's on trial in there. Well, you kind of sound like you're a Galilean. No, I don't know who that is. 3 times he denies Jesus. And it's not just the rooster crowing that connects with it times 3, but it's also the restoration after the resurrection where Jesus sees him. And the way that we deal with failures is we would see the person that failed, and at best we would be like, we're fine. But I don't really want to do anything with you anymore because you failed, you didn't do your responsibility. But instead, Jesus sees him after the resurrection and makes sure that for as many times as Peter failed, Jesus restores him. So he denies him 3 times. Jesus restores him after the resurrection 3 times. And I think that's what's key to learn from this Fortnite kind of respawn thing is that it's not I sinned. Was it 70 times 7? I sinned 491 times. And so that's more than what mathematically Jesus had in the formula. No, instead, it's 491, still forgiven. 492, still forgiven. The strength, the love, the depth of Christ's sacrifice and grace is so much more powerful than our failures and our sin. And so, man, that hasn't saved my life so many times. I don't know what has.
Yeah. I really liked Zach kind of summed it up, and he said the admission price to freedom begins with an admission of your sin. Yeah. Just opening that door to grace that Jesus provided. So Point 3 that Pastor Zach talked about was wear the right skin. In Fortnite, there's all kinds of skins that you can get to look like Star Wars characters, superheroes, punk rockers, anything in the galaxy. What stuck out to you guys about wearing the right skin at that point of things?
It's the consistency of our conversation here today that we're broken, we're messed up, and Jesus clothes us with his grace, with his righteousness, with his truth. And over and over and over again, we're gonna mess up time and time again. And he said, use Galatians 3 verse 27 in his message. For all who were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. That's a very interesting metaphor and analogy to use. And even we take it back and we're the old Adam is within us, that we're broken, that the man who started this whole issue of sin, we're the ones that continue it, that we have Adam in our hearts and our souls, and Jesus clothes us with his righteousness. We're baptized, we're immersed into his grace, and that has significant impact in all of our lives from that moment on, knowing that we're not defined by our brokenness. We're not defined by how many times we've sinned, whether it's 495 or 2,000, but that we're defined by the grace of Jesus Christ, that his identity of a dearly loved and forgiven child of God is upon us. It's not how broken we are, but it's who Jesus is and what he did for us.
Yeah, I can't always bring things full circle, but I think we're going to go back to the soiled knickers. And oh boy. And here's where I'm going to go with that. I think all of us have done something to stain ourselves. And there's a scripture in Malachi that talks about cleansing us as a fuller's soap. And it's like a launderer's soap. And that soap was back in that day, we're talking some seriously stringent stuff. And that's what's necessary to clean, we might in jest talk about red knickers and such, but to think about how powerful the cleansing power of the grace and love of Jesus can be, it's like you're wearing new clothes, a complete set of new clothes. And, it kind of gives you this view of what we see in Jesus in the transfiguration story with him and Moses and Elijah, is that he is so dazzlingly white in terms of like his appearance and clothing. And I just mean that as in like just purity. And then that's all that you're experiencing. To think that like when we think of ourselves, we kind of think of ourselves as soiled and broken, and rightfully we are.
Yeah.
When we look at ourselves through the light of the law, we are. But if that's all you see, then you're not getting the full story, because there is this purity that we have that's like put upon us, that cleanses us like a fuller's soap, that illustrates that we are not just the broken darkness that, like hides in the heart of every single person, but there is this terrifying beauty of the purity of God and his holiness that also indwells in us too. And so, having new clothes put onto you in baptism, in forgiveness, man, that's a powerful thing that I hope that people, like when they just get ready in the morning and they put on, I hope you all put on new clothes. I put on.
I did too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, check. You
Yep,
good?
Yep.
All right, good. But when we do, there's just some like daily things that you do that you can actually like read some gracious importance to them. So like Luther talked about when you daily take a bath, like taking a bath to me is gross, but a shower, I mean, that's not as gross. You remember your baptism.
Yeah.
When you put on new clothes for the day, you can remember grace and forgiveness and being clothed in Christ. So there's just some things that you can do in your day that kind of go back to our other conversation about reading the word, being in prayer, talking to your expectations of your future self that connect to that view of grace for you too.
Yeah. I really liked Zach said the Fortnite is, you want to be the one out that's left other than the 99. And Zach said that Jesus is not trying to outlast the 99. He came to give his life for the 99. Like he wants to be the one to sacrifice for everyone else.
And not even for his benefit, but for the benefit of the 99.
Right. And I think when we mess up or when we fail or when, we're in the wrong position, we feel very isolated and we feel like, this is just me. Everyone else is doing great and it's just me. But we see even through the story, somebody, as great as David still messes up. And so we can take heart that Jesus came for all of us, like not just the winner, but for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you hear David's story, he's a monster. Right.
Yes.
Like what the kid said in Kidsman. He's quite literally a monster in this story. He's the horrible guy who sleeps with somebody else's wife, who has a child out of wedlock and then kills the husband. And you could see David as this awful man. And when he is, and in the New Testament, he's labeled as a man after God's own heart. And I think that transformation, that shift can only be done through the grace of Jesus. That again, it's nothing that you've done wrong. It's nothing that you've done right or wrong, but it's everything that Jesus has done for you. And that's able to let me live my life without the pressure of doing the right things all the time or not seeking to not do the wrong things. I've heard the gospel of sin management is what we can often get in the depths of, where, if I just stop sinning, then I'll be righteous. If I stop doing these bad things, then Jesus will love me. Well, it's no, the true gospel is in your sin, in your transgressions, Jesus is with you and he's in the depths of your hurt with you. And that's the true gospel, not being perfect, but understanding that Jesus was perfect for you. So now you don't have to be.
Amen. All right. So this was the end of our Game On series. What are you guys' final takeaways from this series this year?
I always thought that the game was over when my kids were playing. So they would just be watching the screen and I'd be like, why are you still like plugged into this? Can you please go do your homework now? Or can you do a chore? And they're like, Dad, I can respawn. I'm like, oh. But I think what I'm going to be taking is the value of taking something that people know, whether they like it or not, in terms of video games, but just seeing that as a filter through which the scriptures are magnified is incredibly important. So I can imagine that there's probably people that are like, it's a series on video games. No, it's a series on David. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that people know more about video games, sadly, right now than they know about David. And this is a doorway through which they can see David more clearly. And as they see David, they can see themselves, or they'll see Jesus. And so I think that's what I'll be taking away is that there is a value to engaging with your culture as long as you don't become your culture. Because like my takeaway is not that I'm going to go around and find like a bunch of people that I'm going to take a pickaxe to
Yep.
or whatever you did.
Pickaxe, that's your starter.
Like that's not my
Good
takeaway.
moral to live by.
Yeah. Thou shalt not. So I shan't. Shan't? I shan't. Yeah. I shall not.
Yeah.
It's going off the rails real fast.
There we go.
But that there's a value, a very high value to knowing what happens in everyday people's lives. Because that will give you an opportunity to preach Christ crucified and resurrected in a way that they weren't anticipating. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I just love looking at David's story from start to finish and seeing a lot of great things, a lot of successes, a lot of successes, and a lot of failures. And for me, I can relate to that 100%. I've failed a lot. I've succeeded a lot. And I bet you guys have too. Whatever's going on in your life.
I haven't seen Dina fail yet. It's just me.
Well, you heard this story earlier.
Yeah.
That's just an accident. That's different.
Just an accident. There we go. Whatever you've been through, whatever you've gone through, good, bad, whatever, God can flip that around and continue to grow that into something beautiful that he has for you. So follow his lead and know that it's not all in you.
Mm-hmm.
I really like what you said there about David being relatable. That's what really sticks out to me is whether you look at the video game aspect of this or the David aspect of this, I think this series really reminded me how we're all connected and we all make really great choices and really horrible choices.
Yeah.
And whether that's in a video game or in real life, we can all be proud of and learn from those experiences. And that's really kind of what continued to come out to me each week. So thank you guys so much for being here. We start a new message series next week. Pardon this interruption. And
yes.
Pastor Seth,
yours
you're
truly.
gonna we get to hear you preach now.
Yeah. Well, Gospel of Mark is going to preach itself.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I love about this perspective on this is like Mark had this very specific style where he'll start a story, he'll interrupt that story, and then he'll bring it back into resolution so that they all actually resolve themselves with the same major point that Jesus is trying to teach. And so that's what we're going to learn as he interrupts our life. And that's the way it should be every single day.
I'm looking forward to it. So until then, let's keep living our faith beyond Sunday.